Pai whānau o tuatahi, ka tuku whakawhetai, kia timata pai tō tātou hui. Nā reira, tui ia ki te rani, tui ia ki te papa, tui ia ki te moana, karono te pō, karono te ao, tihei, mauri ora.
Mauri ora.
Mauri ora.
Hihi ana hau te tuku i te nākau aroha ki a koutou. Kua whai wā ki te noho tahi nei, i runi i te Zoom. Kia whakawhiti, whakaaro, koha mai wā koutou whiako e pāna ki tēnei momo mea. Ko te hanga trust, hanga charity, society pia. But tēnei, te nākau te nākau aroha e rere atu ki a koutou. Kua whai wā ki te noho tahi, hui tahi. O tira, koutou me o koutou pukinga maha e noho ki Taranaki, ki raru i te haumaru o tērā mauna, a tēnā koe, taku hoa Oz, kua whakatō te whakaaro mo tēnei hui, tēnā koe hoa, koutou e tautoko i te whakaaro, Pānia Kelly, tēnā koutou e whai kaha nei ki te tautoko i a mātou. So, he mihi nui, o tira, taku hoa kawiti, kei kora koe nā wā katoa e tautoko i a mātou. Robin, Maia, koutou kua tai mai nei ki te whakarongo ki nā kōrero, nau mai hara mai tātou katoa. So just big thanks, massive thanks for everyone for coming together for this hui. Ko Jared here ki tā hau, he uri no Waimana, no te Waimana kākua hau, no te urewera, engari kei te noho a hau ki hoki ana i tēnei wā, ki te taha o te whānau o tōku wahine, ko rangi Māori e tērā, kei muri ia hau e whakarongo nei, she's just at the back there listening in. But I didn't want to take up too much time anyway, whānau, with kōrero. Just thought open with some good karakia, a bit of gratitude, and just let everyone know that this is just a real informal, casual chat about different people's experiences and starting and operating trusts, and that just noho whakaiti nei, real just here to listen and take in any kōrero that anyone has in their journey. Just big mihi. We could, how many of us are there? About 12 of us or something like that. Do we want to just like jump straight into talking about it? I'm happy for people to take the space to just do like real quick mihi if people want to just quickly introduce themselves, but other, like if we feel like we just want to get straight into the kaupapa, then that's cool as well. But so I'll just leave a little bit of space here for people to, what do we want to do?
Kia ora te whānau, ingoa kaitoki raua hau, tai kōtaku, Charit, kei kirikiri anu hona.
Kia ora. Kia ora, brother.
Oh, well, looks like we're doing a bit of an intro. I'll introduce myself. Sean Malcolm, based in Whangarei, occupying Māori whenua, establishing a marakai here at Ngā Raratunua with our marae and our whānau, and just looking at how I can further understand the process of setting up a trust with supporting our whānau and that vision, and accessing putia from a number of different organizations to facilitate that process and enable us to strengthen our whakapapa. So that's partially why I'm here, and Kawati's my cuz, Jay's a good bro that I've met through my permaculture journey, and yeah, stoked to be here, and thanks for holding space for us and organising it, Jay. Yeah, mauri ora.
Kia ora, my bro. Oz.
Kia ora, everyone. Emily's going to join us in a second too. We just tag team. She had a zoo before. Now it's my turn. Yeah, just keen to help you basically, Jared. When I saw your call for some help, some afi for Onuku, just keen to share our journey of 8 years of running a trust here in Taranaki called Te Whenua Tōmiri Trust. So I'm keen, happy to share the screen and show you a few things later on as we go. But yeah, so we've done this for 8 years, and by no means are we experts at all. We are. I'm a musician by trade, and Em's an ecologist. So running accounts and running community groups in a formal sense is foreign to us, but in a practical sense, from our activist background, it's very much we spent 10-20 years doing this kind of stuff. Hey, Alexander, down in Wellington. So yeah, so happy to share. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora, Oz, mean bro. Pēhā koe, Kelly.
Oh, kia ora e te whānau. Can you see me all right?
Kia ora.
Me, got me some new speakers, some new headphones. Kia ora whānau. Kelly, I grew up in South Auckland, went into tourism, and then realised that life wasn't for me. And 4 years ago, created Whenua Warrior, Charitable Trust, after doing a governance program actually with Kāki Potama, Shay Wright, Travis O'Keefe, and Kay Marie Dunn. Then after learning that, met some cool as people and built a trust based on the idea that I wanted to build gardens around the country. Originally was around the country, and then learned a lot of stuff very quickly, and that governance is hugely important to any kaupapa, especially if you're looking to work outside of law system, I suppose, and create your own rules. I am definitely here to learn more than teach. And yeah, passing the raka back. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Kelly. What's te raka kia koe, Pania?
Tēnā tātou, tēnei ka mihi kia koutou me o koutou kārangatanga maha. Ko wai tēnei, ko Pānia Nuta tōku ingoa, hiuri tēnei no te rarawa ngā puhi me Waikato whānui, e noho ana au ki runga I tō mātou whenua tūpuna ki te ihu o Mataoho. I am just here to listen and learn and to tautoko where I can. Being on the journey with Kelly, with Whenua Warrior, has been a huge learning curve. And so keen to share some of our experiences. But Kelly and I have always too looked up to hers and Emily and the mahi down in Taranaki. And, it's been inspiring and motivating. So when I heard hers was running so I had to get on there. But my experience, my background is in law and health sciences. So I've written up maybe 6 or 7 charitable trusts myself. So here to help in that respect. And also we have a kind nursery here that Kelly and I started maybe 4 years ago when we turned a derelict cow shed into a whare kohanga, and at the moment we're growing something like 1,600 seedlings down there, and every day we get more and more comfortable with growing kai into the whenua. So yeah, that's where our kaupapa is, and hopefully soon too we'll put a little entity over that kaupapa, but we're looking at a whānau trust instead of a charitable one. So, ai. Koe ra taku I tēnei wā, tēnā tātou.
Ngā mihi nui pānia, rawe nā kōrero. Alex, would you mind sharing a quick intro on yourself, please, bro?
Kia ora, Alexander Wright, I'm in Wellington. Thanks, Urs, for the invitation to join in this kōrero, and kia ora, Emily. I'm currently involved in nurturing the development of a collective of woodworking friends who share a social conscience and an interest in woodwork in that order. And we're actually meeting this week. So the structure that we're going to work with, we're currently a collective. We went to the Living Wood Fair in Golden Bay earlier this year as a collective, and that was great. But we are ready to think about how to, what shape we ought to take. I'm really interested in a cooperative model if you're in business, but I'm also, amenable to working in a charitable organization. That would be preferable, really. Also, I've been working with Emily's sister Lucy, just finishing fitting out a project for her, and she's just starting in business. So I'll take what I learn here and share that with her too. Although it's going to be recorded, so just point her in the right direction. Yeah. And yeah, thanks for sharing this time with me, and thanks for the heads up, Urs, and glad to be able to join this this group. Thank you.
Kia ora, Alexander. Yeah, brought up something which is another interesting point about cooperatives, and that's a whole nother kaupapa in itself, which would be cool to have a similar hui with people who are in that realm. So cool whakaro. And kia ora, Emily, ka tuku te rākau kia koe, kia whakamōhio mai ko ai tēnei. Tēnei kanohi hau.
Kia ora koutou. Mai o te nui ngā koutou. Yeah. Tino like fangirl most of you. Yeah, lovely to see you. Alex, it's been a while there, since last year. Yeah, hey, I guess I've been mostly in, I guess, small sort of activist groups like incorporated societies, cooperatives, yeah, whenua trusts, whānau trusts, yeah, and charitable trusts. Yeah, so I've got a bit of a mixed experience and several opinions on all of them.
Strong opinions.
I'm tending to like the ones that have less money and more passion. Seem to be more fun and more productive. But yeah, gotta pay your bills at some point. Yeah, hopefully to see you all.
Pai, kia ora tuhi au. Pai te ki te a koe. Robin.
Kia ora tātou, Robin Martin Kent tōku ingoa. He uri no Te Atiawa me Ngāpuhi nui tonu. I'm just here to listen really, guys, and learn. I've been looking into a whānau trust and yeah, all those kinds of things for trusts and that, and like this just sounded real interesting and somewhere where I could get a lot of knowledge from, I guess. So just want to thank Oz for the invite. When I sent it, I was like, yes, I've been waiting to learn about this stuff. So yeah, I'm just here to listen and learn, guys, and yeah, that's me.
You're mute, Jared.
Kia ora, Robin. Thanks for your kōrero. Nice to see you. And Mai, I think you're the last in our group. Would you be able to do a quick intro?
Hi, kia ora whānau, Mai Bailey. I'm an uri of Upukamutu Hapu, Pariaka Papakainga, and Otarawa Ngāti Rahiri here in Taranaki. I'm looking at setting up a charitable trust. I've been following the Facebook posts about housing affordability, the market that's not been tapped into in terms of providing an affordable housing model. So there is funding available for a charitable trust. So I'd like to set one up and listen. And that is going to be part of my proposal to council to look at a different option of housing for people in need. So thank you for the invite.
Pai ngā mihi nui e hoa, nau mai hara mai, tātou katoa. It's kind of hard, always hard to know, like, where do you start when you just get a bunch of people together and you got a kaupapa and it's like, all right, everyone just start talking and giving advice. But I thought maybe like good place to start is deciding on what type of entity is best, because there's obviously charities and societies, and there's sort of pros and cons to each of those. So I thought I might just open up with that, and if anyone has any whakaaro around that, be cool to hear your thoughts.
I guess I might start. I suppose you've also kind of got your two, so you've got your legal entities and your not illegal, but you're not legal entities. So like a cooperative can be just, a group of friends or just of people working together, but you don't have to have any legal status. Like we ran a little shop like that for a while down Wellington for a few years. It was all like koha based kind of thing. It ran really well, but there was no legal entity. It was pretty fluid. But yeah, so the legal ones is so you've got a trust or incorporated society, and then I think both of those can become charitable registered charities, so which is another level of legal status. But yeah, that's kind of what else is there.
Yeah, so for example, Parakore is actually an incorporated society, as far as I know. So an incorporated society has to have at least 15 members. Whereas a trust, you can sort of have as few trustees as you want.
I think minimum is 2, right?
Yeah. We've opted for a trust for Aotearoa Puta Whenua Tōmiri Trust. And then, so we're a charitable trust that then is registered with the charity services, just like Kelly with Whenua Warrior. But for example, for our Parihaka Mara, that's an incorporated society that is not registered with the charity services. So there's other avenues for maybe where there's more of a group kind of thing, where it's more open somewhat. So maybe an incorporated society may be better. If it's more of a close knit network, then maybe a trust might be better. But they're both fine to use. But as Emily says, there's got to be a lot to be said for organizations that operate outside of all that kind of annoying space of legal schmiegel, of IRD and bank accounts and all that stuff. Back in the day when we were running activist groups in Wellington, it was just, we're all collectives, and some of us have bank accounts and some of us had just a jar. And they were the best groups were the ones that just had a jar. But
cool. So what I've been able to gather is that incorporated society is kind of more democratic, needs many more members, and everyone who's a part of that society has the right to vote on decisions made regarding the society. Whereas a charitable trust is more of like you say, you can have like a minimum of 2 or 3 people, trustees, governance people, and they have the mandate to make decisions. Is that right? Does that sound?
I was just going to add that with the incorporated society, while you might have more members, you can end up having committees of like, 2 or 3 people who end up making a whole decision all year round until you have an AGM. So sometimes it can be less democratic, but it just depends how you want to run it. Like that can actually be quite convenient.
Yeah. One
And I
thing
think a lot of it comes down to what your purpose is as well. I find with incorporated societies, there's a lot of work that needs to be done in organising meetings and ensuring that all your members have the relevant information and those sorts of things. So I think, you've got to decide on what is the purpose of your kaupapa and how is it that you want to make decisions? Because I find maybe incorporated societies are a little bit outdated. Engari, koe tā tāku whakaro.
Can you elaborate on that, Eho? Like, as to why?
I'm a board member for an incorporated society, and we only have 15 members, and they are what you would call members that pay a fee to join or have a subscription. And we have these AGM, you have to run an AGM and make sure that you have the right number of members there to hold a meeting. And and especially if you're going with the incorporated societies template, which I think a lot of startups use, they're quite outdated. So I would suggest you put in a lot of time to making sure that it's fit for purpose. Whereas with a charitable trust, like Emily said, you could have up to 2 trustees and you yourself can make decisions on behalf of your beneficiaries or your members. And so it's easier to make decisions that way. So I think you've got to really think about how it is that you want to make decisions. And then look at the options, the different entities from there.
So if I could add maybe one.
Just making the distinction between a trust and a charitable trust, eh?
An incorporated society and a charitable trust. So there's many trusts that you can have, whānau trust, ahu whenua trust. I think too, what will help you decide what kind of trust you want is if you have assets, and if you have resources. Kei a koe, Emily, kei a koe te atu whakaro.
That's really okay. No, all good. I was just thinking a way I define the 2 different incorporated society and trust is that incorporated society is often used for legal protection. Like if you might have to have a court case or generally that kind of thing. Whereas a trust is more about how to manage money and jobs and those kind of things. Yeah. And so adding that charitable status is when you want to go for particular types of funding that you can't get if you're, say, I don't know, selling a product with which trustees get the money for.
So, as an example, we're involved with an activist group called Climate Justice Taranaki, and once we started getting involved in legal hearings with the Environmental Protection Agency and taking companies to court, we decided to become an incorporated society to protect the members of the group so that no one becomes liable in case we get taken down by one of these companies. So that was a protection mechanism so we can engage in the legal arena, I suppose. But it was more appropriate using an incorporated society for a group like that than a charitable trust, for example.
Yeah. Can I just clarify? So you can have a society that's not incorporated. So you got a society that, yeah, that isn't incorporated. Basically, the difference is when you're incorporated, your organization takes on a legal entity in and of itself, which is then accountable, and then the individual people who represent the organization are no longer legally, they can't be sued as individuals, sort of thing. Does that make sense? Is there something similar with trusts? Like, so you can have a trust, but not a charitable trust. It can just be a trust on its own. And what's the difference between a trust and a charitable trust?
You can even be a charity and not have charitable status. But it's usually something trust, like it might be a family trust, ahu whenua or whānau, and they all have different, they're bound by different legislations. Yeah.
What I'm hearing you say, Pania, is it's kind of like whatever the purpose of the kaupapa is, that's what you go and pursue in terms of what type of trust.
Like if you just want to receive putea, knowing what your purpose is going to help you decide on what kind of entity that you need. So if you just want to receive putea, you might just want to be a charitable trust with charitable status. Or if you want that legal protection, you might want to be an incorporated society. So it's really knowing what your purpose is.
Okay, yep. And so if you form a trust, there's no way of attaining a similar legal status as an incorporated society. You can't do that with a charitable trust.
I think you can if you write that into your trust deed. Depends on what kind of legal protection that you're seeking. But most of your trustees are exempt from liability if that's explicitly included in your trust deed.
Yeah.
I think, is it your experience, Emily?
Yeah, we're just trying to remember. So with the Mara group, we're incorporated society, but we're not a charitable trust. But we can still get funding and stuff from banks and that kind of thing. But we don't have to do all the paperwork that's involved with charitable status, whatever it's called. But so like our other group is a trust, but it's also a charitable trust. And so we can also go for funding, but we also have to do all that paperwork that's involved with the charity society of charities.
Yeah.
By we, she means I, but that's all right. But maybe just to expand on that, so we set up our trust in 2013, and initially we weren't registered with the charity services, and it wasn't until 2017 that we actually registered with the charity services. And the key thing why you would register with the charity services is you don't pay any tax, so you become exempt from paying tax. So hence, sanitarium, they don't pay any tax because they're actually a registered charity with the charity services because they're Seventh-day Adventists. So that there's a whole other world, of religious groups, etc. So when you buy Weet-Bix, there's no tax involved. But anyway, so that's why you want to register with the charity services, is to ensure that your charitable work that you're doing does not require you to pay any tax. And in order to do that, you'll have to submit your trust deed to the charity services, and they'll look over it and give you feedback. And in our case, I think we had to tweak one clause in our trust deed before they were happy for us to register, but it was super straightforward to register with the charity service. And once you've gone through that, then your relationship with IRD is over, except for filing a GST if you're GST registered. So that's still the only kind of dealings you will have with IRD after that, once you've got that charitable status. So that's, you know, that's really why 28,000 trusts have become charities in New Zealand. It's because once you're a charity, you're away from, you're exempt from all tax. Obviously, the people who you contract, the people who work for you, they still have to pay their income tax, etc. But you wouldn't have to pay any tax on the funding or the money you receive, if that makes any sense.
Even if it's kind of like a business model, obviously sanitarium is, that's crazy. But like, so if you're selling services as part of the mahi that you roll out, and also providing like actual charity kaupapa, that's all just part of it.
Yeah, so as long as your mahi is of a charitable nature, and obviously there is you know, there'll be legal precedents as to what exactly that entails, but you know, the broad spectrum kind of charitable work that people would do in the environmental sector, or supporting the poor, or all that kind of non-ideological stuff would all be covered by that act. So you're totally fine. Once you start getting into for-profit stuff, or once you start getting into ideological stuff like political stuff, etc., things might change. But as long as you're staying within that, you know, feed the poor, house the poor, support people who struggle, protect the environment, look, conservation, all that kind of stuff, that's all, you know, that's totally covered in terms of how charities, you know, are viewed.
I think I got a bit of a koha to give at this point. Like if we reflect on the whakapapa of Whenua Warrior, at the beginning we were just doing it, and again, we means I, but just building gardens, and then we kept doing it until we got a couple of contracts, which were fine going through Sole Trader, Kelly benefiting. And then we got to a point where funders started watching our story, and then Te Puni Kokiri offered to give some funds. So that's when I got together a couple of friends, me, Pans and Tomo, and ended up building the charitable trust side. It wasn't for like a year and a half later or something crazy that we found out that charitable trust doesn't mean you have charity status. So we applied for that, and Pans wrote it up, and we became charity. And then we got to a point, which is, you know, within the last year or so, where we're looking at employing full-time staff. So what I'm trying to get to here is that we can't predict exactly what we're going to do in 10 years, but, you know, along the way, it's okay to change. It's okay to add to, it's okay to adjust. And where we learned that was with Moana Tamariki Pohe, who runs the Orake water sports. And they've got 3 different arms, which is mana, muni, and mauri. So mana is where they use funds that they get through muni, which is contracts. They take that money to pay into their mana projects for the community. And then mauri is where they pay back for free, where there's no money exchange. So it's like when you take your silver beet to Nan, and Nan will give you honey. That's what happens in your mauri circle. What happens in your mana circle is the things that you choose to do charitably toward your community. And then the muni is where money changes hands. So where Hapai Te Hauora will contract me to build a garden. That kind of model is nice. I like it. It kind of fits in with what we do. And we've learnt that over the 4 years. But yeah.
So is that something that's amazing, first of all? Like, I love that. And is that something that is within the entire entity itself, or are those separate entities when you're talking about separate arms, or are those separate arms part of the, you just written it into the trust deed, or they have written it into the trust deed?
So yeah, cool question, because this does actually talk to how you can make that a thing, make it a reality. So with them, they've got 2 separate entities. One's a business entity, and then one is a charitable trust entity. I'm not sure about the incorporated society bit, but they're definitely set up like that. And then through business is their money arm, where they get contracted for X amount of money. And then that money feeds back into the mana arm, which is their charitable trust side. And then the mana arm is what they feed the profits from this into their rangatahi and into their, you know, passions and things. And then the Māori arm is the stuff they choose to do outside of money in general. So it's like, yeah, free kayak lessons at the water sports or whatever for the kids. So that's kind of how they, yeah, created their model.
And is there an umbrella organization for those two things, or are they part of the same? Do you know?
Probably a Pans question, actually. Girl, do you remember if it's a separate umbrella company or?
Which entity are you talking about?
It was the Orake Water Sports, and then the, I think there was a separate business arm, eh?
Yeah, usually you would have an umbrella organisation similar to how the governance structure is for Ngāti Whātua Orake. Yeah, and many other charitable trust entities. So you can move a motion to start a business arm, and it might be an incorporation, a co-op, or a business, and whatever the arrangement there is can feed that money back to your charitable purposes arm. So it's just however it's worded and structured, you can achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. I think charitable trusts are quite popular at the moment, especially organisations who want to be tax exempted. One of the larger ones that I can think of at the moment is Westpac Helicopter. I think they're a charitable trust. They get like millions and millions of dollars a year. But yeah, another thing you got to think of is being GST registered as well. A lot of organisations get registered to become GST, but they actually aren't required to. And that just adds on another layer of complexity. So yeah, thinking about too, are you going to be providing services which you know you're going to be claiming tax for? So
Anya, would you mind if I just jump in and ask a question about the GST? So I guess what are the situations that a charitable trust would want to become GST registered? When would it be an advantage for a trust to be registered for GST?
When you're providing taxable services, for example, one of the trusts that I'm on, you might, even when you're receiving funding, you might add a GST component onto the funding that you receive. Some funders might say that they don't pay the GST. I don't really get into taxable activities, but this is something that we've stumbled across some of the entities that I've assisted in setting up. 3 of them never actually required to be GST registered. So yeah, and IRD actually coming down on organisations now, and are going to be doing a massive review on organisations that aren't supposed to be GST registered. I don't know, Urs, do you have any whakaaro on taxable services, or Alex?
Just one whakaaro is this, Jared, that there's a threshold. So once you have more than $60,000 per annum income, you have to be registered for GST. So with our trust, for example, the first 3 years that we operated, we were well below that 60K threshold. So we stayed as far away as we could from GST registration. But once I realized we had a contract with MFE, and I had a feeling we were going to go over that 60K. I was like, oh, well, there we go. We don't have to think about it anymore. We just have to do it. And again, we did it all by ourselves without an accountant, and we just, and maybe that's part of our activist DIY approach. Like we grew up hanging out with the punks in Wellington, and it was all about DIY. DIY or die, I think that was so a lot of the stuff that it's just tattooing around, and while we don't have any accounting background, kia ora, e tama, yeah, well, we don't have any accounting background, it's not rocket science. Every 2 months for our rope, and it takes me literally 12.5 minutes, and then I'm done. Like it's 20 clicks and that's it. So it's really not hard as long as your accounts are up to date. It's super simple. But yes, so the threshold 60K. And speaking of thresholds, there's other thresholds to consider when going through this process. And one is the tiers within the charity services. There's 4 tiers, and again, it's on how much income your charity makes. And I only know the lowest tier threshold, which is 125K. So as long as you're below 125K per year of income, you're in the 4th tier, which is the lowest tier. And there's different rules on what kind of reporting you have to provide. So if I knew that we're going to have 126K of income, I would make damn sure that we actually have 124, because I just know that tier 3 will be just a headache, so it's probably not worth our time. But it's just something to be aware that the reporting for charities with tier 4 is again super straightforward, and as long as your accounts are in order, and you have a few KPIs for your organization, you take a few measurements that you think are important to you to report on, like say, for example, how many people have you engaged with, or how many books generated, or how many cabbage plants have you put in the ground, or whatever those kind of KPIs that you're looking at, you record some of those, then you report for charities that is then published on their website in a couple of hours mahi. It's not rocket science, that tier 4 reporting. And then obviously that's beneficial because potential funders can view those publicly available documents and make sure that you're a decent kind of crew. So those are the 2 numbers I've got in my head: 60K for GST, 125 for that tier 4. So once we hit over 125, I'll have to just make myself familiar with tier 3 and what that looks like.
Kia ora, Oz, Mean, and thanks, Pania, for answering the questions that are coming up in the chat.
So was that on revenue? Do you know?
Is it on revenue? Yeah, just on income that the charity makes. Yep, any income, so koha or funding or contracts, whatever it is. Yep, just overall income.
True. So that's any incoming money that adds up to the upper limit of tier 4 is considered within that, and then tier 3, tier 2, tier 1, and so on. Yeah, okay.
I just add that sometimes that's referred to as turnover. That you might talk about 60,000 turnover. There's another turn of phrase for that. So it's not what you pay yourself, but like you say, the money that comes in.
Kia ora, Alex. Yeah, good to have some of that terminology. And just to say, for as I've gone through this process, I've found there's like some really thorough resources online. Where are we? If you even just Google Charitable Trust New Zealand or charity or incorporated society or anything like that, there's some real thorough guides just for Maya, if you haven't found those yet, or Sean, when you get around to looking into that, bro. Like there's really good resources online. And I found early on when I first started looking into things, it felt really kind of overwhelming and technical but once I started asking a lot of questions and like just like getting in touch with a few people, things started becoming clear really quickly. And one bit of feedback I have heard quite a lot is like, it's actually pretty straightforward. Like once you get down to writing your deed and stuff, like it's not complicated. It just seems a bit scary when you haven't really done any homework into it yet. So yeah, just for anyone else who's kind of feeling a bit intimidated by the process, it's not as scary as I initially thought it was. I just thought like there's a lot of like technical kōrero that we could keep going into, but I'm aware it's already 9 p.m. So I thought maybe if we could just quickly move into a space of just like general practical reflections that you guys might have around the process. And like Kelly, me and you've been messaging a bit, and like you gave some really awesome feedback to me just about some of the general kind of not necessarily mistakes, but things you could have avoided and made it easier. So I just thought maybe if we could go into some just general kōrero around how like just your reflections would be cool. Maybe starting with you, Kelly, if you don't mind.
Yeah, kapai, bro. Yeah, I think firstly, the reason why we're looking at doing something via the law system, separate to the law system, is because we're doing something different. And what that requires from us is a foundation of different. To do that, we need to figure out what our foundation is. And this is why this kōrero is really, really gold at the moment, and would have been great at the beginning of the journey. So I think, so we've done a little bit of digging into like the different types of entities that we can talk about, but with Whenua Warrior, I think we also had a lot of learnings with finding trustees and deciding on how many we have and what their roles and responsibilities are. So from the beginning, starting a trust, like it would have been gold to know that having someone with a skill set behind accounts, someone with skill set behind administration, someone with a strong skill set of governance and building policy and all of that stuff would have been cool to know, because there's no part of the journey where that gets easier if it's not settled. And if you don't have the right trustees. So choosing the people may not be completely possible at the beginning, or you may have your team settled right now, but be aware that the trust is basically set up so that it can support the journey of the people operating through it. So in your case, Jared, your food forest and the products that are going to come from that, you may be thinking, mum and wifey are the best options now. And later on down the track, you'll find that actually I need someone to fill the position of marketing. So you'll invite them in as a trustee. And that is important when you write your deed, as well as along the journey when you grow. Probably the second biggest hint as well is actually leading off that too. Employing those particular skill sets inside a trust can mean that you may not have to pay for it. So if you have an accountant as your treasurer, they're going to do your financials, which means you don't have to pay for it because they'll do it for you. And also, roles and responsibilities, I think, is something that is imperative to have clear from the beginning, because that doesn't get any clearer along the journey either if you don't pay attention to it. But the positives are that we can be a Māori trust that prioritizes people inland above everything, which means that we can start looking at what it means to create a health and safety focused on Te Ao Māori and the safeties that we need. It means we can start building policy based on what our kaupapa is. It means that, you start opening up the framework that we've been taught or educated to believe is true, it opens up that framework and you can start deciding what parts of it you're going to change. So, you know, in my mind, the more trust, the better, because that means we can open up and talk about the things that matter to us. And kia kaha. That's probably me.
Kia ora, Kelly. Mean.
How do you look after your trustees in a way that makes, I suppose you don't look after them, but I suppose in your experience, like say you do invite people with those set skill sets, first and foremost, I would hope that they're passionate about the kaupapa. You already get buy-in from them, but like in your guys' experiences, how do you just manaki trustees as well, who sometimes go over and above the kaupapa?
Lots of alcohol.
Being conflict.
No, kidding. I don't support that at all through my trust. It's actually written in my deed. No, so it's, you know, like when you look at supporting people in general, that's up to you, eh? It doesn't need to be written in your deed how you treat your trustees. It doesn't need to be a solid $1,000 payment every year. It's up to you how you treat your trustees. And as an example, me and Pans were actually booked on for a retreat. They got cancelled 2 weeks ago because of COVID. But I see value in being able to take that time away and be able to build more than whanaungatanga, obviously. It's a space where we can just, you know, be a normal person for a little while. So it's kind of dependent on what you would like to reward your trustees as well.
Yeah, and just on that note as well, Ehua, keeping your trustees safe too is ensuring that you support them to build their capacity and capability. If you just are wanting to get a trustee on just to get your charitable trust registered, then you ought to invest time in that trustee or resource to build their capabilities, because you don't want to put your auntie or your nan in a position where they might not be able to fulfill their trustees' obligations. Because if you create a charitable trust as trustees, you're still obliged to meet the trustees' responsibilities under the Trustees Act. And another, I saw your question there about how do you the experiences of being a trustee and an employee. So in Kelly's case, she's a trustee and she's the kai whakahaere for Whenua Warrior. And so in our trust deed for Whenua Warrior, there's a clause there that says that trustees can be remunerated. And so we remunerate Kelly, and those conflicts of interest are registered with the trust, and we have a way of mitigating any risks that might arise. And so having those processes in place is really important. And for one of our other trusts too, our operations manager is one of the trustees as well. So it's just about how is the trust going to manage those conflicts of interest. So you might exclude that trustee from particular financial decisions or decisions which might cause a bit of conflict. But there are many ways that you can remunerate trustees. Some of the funding that you might apply for, you can put in your budget that trustees might get a sitting fee. So I sit on Greenpeace Aotearoa, and we get a sitting fee for all the huis and the board preparations that we do throughout the year. Other things, other whānau, or some of us are just happy with the end of year Christmas lunch, or getting a free mara or free seedlings every other week. So it really depends on what the trusts can afford and what their values and their principles are in valuing their trustees. What I do find though, in my experience, as much as we all would love to do kaupapa for aroha, sometimes it's not feasible. And so with the trusts that I'm involved in, where their trustees get remunerated or rewarded, you seem to get more investment from them into the mahi that the trust is doing. But yeah, just one more thing, going back to your trustees here, make sure that they have the skills. I will never, and I think it's dangerous, I will never, because it's dangerous actually, get involved in a trust again. And I'm talking specifically about one of my whānau trusts, where the trustees don't have understanding about what it takes to be a trustee. You can get yourself in a very dangerous position, and it really delays the work that the trust is seeking to fulfill. And you could also end up in legal cases for long periods of time, and it could be as simply from something with, misinformation, or someone's idea of what the minutes should look like is different to somebody else's, so they want to they want to remove them as a trustee through the Māori Land Court, and then you're stuck in that process for 2-3 years. So yeah, make sure that you have trustees who are at least are willing to build capacity and capability, or at least have some experience and knowledge of governance.
Rau e nā kōrero. Thank you, Panya and Kelly. Really good insights. Thank you. And Ming Pātai Kawati. Yeah, that was one thing that I was misunderstood. I thought if you were trustee on the governance board of a charitable trust, there was no way you could be remunerated. So it's really cool to hear that. So you just write that into your deed that trustees can be remunerated, and then it's all good.
You can't. I think the wording is actually you can't be seen to be benefiting, but and take benefiting out, replace it with remuneration. You're being remunerated for time that you have spent. Yep. So the trust is remunerating instead of paying you to do the job. Yeah.
Mm. And
to make things
play with the words, eh?
Yeah, I think it'll be helpful if we pass on trust deeds, charitable trust deeds, if that's the route that you're heading towards. We can provide you with templates. And honestly, I wrote my first one when I left, the year that I left university, and it was for our whānau, and I found a template online, and that trust is still going. And it's one of the things I advocate for charitable trusts, is because you can go online and you can change things. And the Charities Commission are really quick at getting back to you. I think one of the trusts, we changed the name, we sent them our minutes, and then 3 days later, the name had changed. So that makes mahi easier, just to upload things online. And then Kelly heard that I wrote this one for my whānau. She said, "Can you write one for Whenua Warrior?" And yeah, I'll take that template and I'll put Whenua Warrior's name on it, and then we'll Whenua Warriorize it, and then it got accepted. So it's not as hard whānau as we probably are making it.
And that was it.
Yeah.
Oh, crack up. Yeah, but that was it. Like I remember that cup of tea and everything, Anyway.
One of the things that I was wondering in terms of roles, like, you have a trustee role, and then you also have like the ringa and the waiwai role. So for example, if Onuku is set up as a charitable trust, it needs the trustees and people to fulfill the governance, but it also needs ringa and waiwai to do mahi and carry out mahi. So Jay could be a trustee, just thinking here, but he could also have a pōtai as one of the ringa and the waiwai to carry out the contracts and stuff. So I suppose it comes back to processes, right? And being transparent with your processes around if you're one person fulfilling different roles in the trust, or aligning with the trust's purpose, mission, all that kind of stuff. As long as you're really clear with function and roles, might that be over?
Yeah, I just want to echo Panya's and Kelly's comments and to respond to you, Kawati. For us is the same. We have a clause in our trust deed, which is only 4 pages, by the way. The trust deed is not a massive document. And that states clearly that trustees can be contractors to the trust. So I think the key, Kawati, here is to be clear about the conflicts and declare them, but then go ahead. So for example, the trustees could say, we have a new big project coming up, some funding. Let's appoint a project manager who then can run the project. And Emily puts her hand up for a project manager. She's also trustee. Well, she should probably step out of the room to make that decision to appoint her as a project manager, because she should not be making that decision as a trustee. The rest of the trustees go, sweet ass, let's make Emily the project manager. She comes back in and she's a project manager and still a trustee, and that's fine. That's how you can manage a conflict. So we've been doing that for the last 8 years with this trust. So some trustees are never contracted to the trust. Some are contracted in pretty much all projects. So that's fine. It's just managing those conflicts.
I just want to say another thing about money is what we normally do with, I think, all of the groups around is before we approve any spending, we approve budgets. So spending always matches budgets, because otherwise if you have random people going out buying stuff and bringing in receipts, it gets really messy and really complicated. So I would suggest budget first and then approve to budget everything. And the same with like making payments, always have like 2 people sign it off, and you have to have like an invoice that shows what it's for, receipts, and this sort of, koha gets real tricky, but there's ways you can, get receipts and all that kind of stuff. But be careful with the money.
I had a kuia tell me at the beginning of my journey, you can do anything in a trust. You can build up any set of foundation, you can work to any model, you can do anything, but don't get their game wrong when it comes to money, because that's where we will be, labeled criminals and fraudulent and, whatever. But money is hugely important, and that leads to investment into an accountant if needed, or just do it from the beginning, because then it's not too messy after that. An accountant's hugely important.
I might jump in there again if that's all right, just because I'm a musical accountant. But I know nothing about I knew nothing about accounting until I started supporting EMS with this trust. And again, I think it was this DIY approach that I hate spending money on other people when I know I could do it myself. I don't know, maybe that's
cheap.
I'm just cheap. Yeah, that's it. We're just cheap. And we do all the accounts ourselves. Now, we don't run a huge operation. I think the biggest year was maybe 80K or so. And I pretty much, I run it all on one spreadsheet, on an Excel spreadsheet. And it's the Excel spreadsheet that IRD provides. It's bloody mint. It's amazing. And I have it on Google Drive, and all the trustees can go to Google Drive and look at a spreadsheet, and it links back to a bank account, and it's super easy and smooth. I haven't spent a cent on Xero or anything else that people tend to run to straight away. So it's that kind of mentality that can keep a lot of the background costs, the admin costs down. So just I love accountants, don't get me wrong, but they're hugely expensive, and as long as we can stay small, we'll do it ourselves at this stage. Yeah.
Carol's tautoko that DIY mentality, and doing it ourselves where we can. That's me.
Just on that, I can't. So I support anyone who wants to pay for an accountant. And I like being on the spade rather than the computer too. So it kind of comes down to your preference as well, and what you want to spend time on. luckily there's no kids to take up time at home. So yes, I can get onto the social media sides of stuff and promotion and marketing and things, but I can't get onto accounts ever. It's yeah.
Maybe just to wrap up, just a quick, it seems like kind of having solid values and like a mission and a vision is quite an important thing to becoming a trust. And like it just hugely informs your trust deed and all of that sort of thing. So I thought maybe we could just quickly touch on that. And I really don't want to keep anyone longer than 9:30. So maybe just another 10 minutes and then we can wrap up. But I just wanted to start that area of the kōrero by letting you know that someone sent me an amazing resource. I'll just screen share. I'm pretty not very advanced with Zoom, so bear with me. But is my screen shared now?
Yes.
Cool. Sweet. Yeah, well, a guy named Sam Judd, which you may know of, he started Sustainable Coastlines. He sent me this, and it's like a really great breakdown of like what is a vision, what's a mission, what are values, and it's got like a process to just understand what they each mean. And then he's got examples of like different companies and trusts of their vision and their mission and their values. But I asked him if he'd mind if I shared this, and he was totally fine with that. So can share this with anyone who's interested. But yeah, just really good resource. This, and you could probably just Google this stuff as well, and there'll be some great resources out there. But yeah, Sam sent me this, and it was just really helpful, and it allowed me to put together my first attempt at some mission values and so on earlier today, and it was just much easier than I initially thought it would have been. But yeah, anyway, I just thought I'd share that and just get back to everyone else on like that process in terms of creating values and mission and vision and all of that. What do you have any reflections on that? Anyone?
I'd just like to say that looks like a very useful resource. That's the process that I'm involved in this week with the group down here. That's what we're talking about doing in a couple of meetings. Not trying to do it all in one hit by any means. But so if you're able to share that, please, Jared.
Definitely. If people leave their email address in the chat in Zoom, is there a way that I can access that after the Zoom meeting's finished, or will I just copy and paste them before the meeting finishes?
I think a copy of your chat can be sent to you by email, but
cool.
Maybe check that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sweet. And I'll just copy and paste them. I won't leave the chat room until I've got all of them. So if anyone wants that, just send me your email in the chat, and I'll send it through to you.
Maybe just to share a whakaaro on that. That looks great what Sam's put together, and also actually Jared, what you've put together is amazing. This PDF you sent through is super cool. It's epic. Our trust doesn't have that much of that. We don't do heaps of visioning and missioning together in a way. I think most of our sort of visioning comes through in the funding applications we prepare, and then eventually in the projects that come out of that. So and maybe just like you, I think it was said earlier on, things change over time too. Like our trust, we needed a legal entity to make an application for a project on zero waste on dairy farms. That's how our trust started. Totally random. It's like, I don't even know what we're thinking. And then the next thing I think was a radio show. And then after that, we did a kids school program. And then we started doing water monitoring. And then, I don't know, it's quite random. Like, so the vision and mission can change to some degree. So it's maybe our group is not a great example at all for having solid visions and missions. But
I guess in short, like we made our vision really broad so that we could do a variety of stuff, but it was still kind of very much around Māori water, you know, looking after our people and tie out.
That's right, because I think the first trustee, I think, said our mission is to have zero waste on dairy farms or something stupid like that. And then like a year in, we started doing a radio show on Parihaka or something like that. We're like, oh, maybe we should change the focus in the trustee. So I think now it says support sustainable development in Taranaki and beyond, or something random like that. So it's, you know, you can adapt, and then with that, your programs and your projects change.
Yeah, totally. I agree with that. And for exactly the same scenario, actually, you know, Whenua builds gardens to feed community. And through lockdown last year, we ended up feeding the homeless. So it's like, you know, we kind of want to be just focusing on the one thing. And once you can nail it down, because our vision was the same as well. It was speaking of building gardens across the entire country. But the project we're doing right now is South Auckland, because that's what we have capability to do. And that's where we are most comfortable, where we know the community enough to be able to do that. So it's like, build it, but not too big to take on other kaupapa, and build it small enough that you can enlarge it.
Yeah, that's something that I've heard a few times now. It's yeah, make it broad so that you can branch out, but then at the same time, cool to know that you can change your trust deed as you go, so you're not bound to that forever. Does anyone have any closing kōrero, any closing pātai before we wrap up?
I'd just like to say that I've really enjoyed the tone of this conversation. It's very optimistic and buoyant, and things can be done. Whereas I think often when I talk to people about anything other than business as usual, it's just too hard basket for them. And so it's really good to be involved in this conversation, and I've learned some things here. Certainly one of the main things is they're okay to deal with, and you know, they'll feed back and tell you need to change this and it's going to be fine, rather than, oh no, you won't get charitable, or you know, you can't do that. So I really appreciate that, and that'll buoy me along into actually the group I'm working with they're really getting it now, so they're not in that category. But commonly there is that sort of fear of the authorities, and at least that's been my experience. So I just wanted to thank you all for being on it, and it's inspiring. Thank you. Oh, and I've put my contact details in the chat, because I was just having a quick look over the chat, but it's hard to watch everything at once. So happy to chat more and keep an eye on what everybody's up to. Bye, thank you.
Cool, Alexander. My final comment would be just to go seek help. For example, here in Taranaki, we have a regional business development agency called Venture Taranaki, which kind of does the whole business side, although they're somewhat helpful. There's actually another organization here in Taranaki called the Wheelhouse, and they take on the role of basically supporting community groups in exactly this kind of stuff: how to run a meeting, how to set up a trust deed. I'm sure up north you'll have similar organizations, whether it's for regional development or for supporting community orgs, or even TPK might have staff exactly tasked to support people like yourselves in setting up these organizations. So when you get stuck, hit us up, or hit your local TPK office or your local DIA office for that kind of support, because that's what they ought to do, and they will. Yeah, they will.
Ai, tautoko, and especially if you have a partnership with Foundation North as well, they're really supportive, and I think the other key message is that if Whenua Warrior can do it, if we can do it, anybody truly can. Every day we're finding our feet with this one. There's, as green as we were and still are, the kaupapa's still going and is somewhat legit and in the eyes of legislation and the law, but yeah, if anything, it's really fun, and it's all worthwhile as well. And now is the opportune time, especially as funding has grown in the space of food sovereignty and conservation and mātauranga Māori. So now is the time to be doing this mahi, and kia manawa nui, kia maia, kia kaha.
I was just going to add just some little details. Once you kind of get down the track and you've got your trustee and your registration, all that, you might find yourself having to do things like health and safety policies, child protection policies, job description, all of that kind of really hoha legal paperwork. But just ask around other trusts and groups, and often they'll just share you this and the same thing, just swap out the name.
The power of copy and paste.
Yeah, all of our stuff has been pretty much copy pasted and adjusted. So yeah, don't freak out about that stuff too much.
Yeah, I think my kōrero was the same. I mean, we're already at a point where we're discussing being different from everyone else. So, as those people, we know we need to create different rules and create that. And the way that we do this via the system is trusts and incorporated societies and cooperatives. So with that journey, just as Em said, like, you can never know it all at the beginning. So just do what you know now, and once you have that feeling or you've learned that thing, then do it. If you get to the next step and you're scared of something, then research it and do that. Just carry on. And carry on with the wisdom, knowing that your reason why you do this has not changed. You still have to do that thing for that reason. So if you have to muck around and do all of this stuff and then build a sustainable food system for 800 generations after you, and you're complaining about building a trust, come on now. And it is that simple. So you either choose to do it or you don't. And if you do, the journey is nowhere near as hard as you may have been trained or educated to believe it is. And also there are different parts of the journey where you'll get stuck, but it comes to mind the tuakana taina model. So you always protect yourself by having a tuakana 2 steps ahead of you, and you always learn how to teach by having a taina 2 steps behind you, and you just carry each other up that maunga. So find your people and find your trustees, and just know that you're not alone. Even though you're building something off the general system that everyone else is on, you're not alone. There's lots of us doing this, and it's because we're all doing things that are different from everyone else. Yeah.
Me whānau, I feel really excited and inspired by everyone's kōrero, and it's been just so cool to just catch up with everyone, regardless of the kaupapa. It's just mean to hear your fellas' voices and feel your energy and feel your good wairua coming through the screen. So I just want to really share our gratitude for your time and all your beautiful whakaaro and encouragement. Yeah, like Alexander was saying, man, yeah, real good feeling, and really like you guys have made it seem really attainable. Yeah, just big thanks for that. Thanks for being so encouraging. And yeah, I feel much more informed than when I first came to this kōrero. Yeah, just want to just give a big mihi to you all. Yeah, ka rere nā hau o te mihi kia koutou e noho ki ngā pito katoa o tika Māui, tātou katoa, tērā, nā reira, ko ka hei whakakapi tēnei wā, ka tuku anō i ngā whakawhetai. And yeah, just big thanks. It looks like I've got everyone's email, just not Alexander. I haven't been able to find your email. Sorry, Alexander. Can you send that through again for me? Yeah, whānau, that's it. I don't want to hold anyone else up any longer, so I'll just quickly wrap us up and do us karakia and send us away.
I might just jump in, bro, and
sure,
just want to jump in quickly as well, and just just back up what you've just said, bro. Big mihi to everyone in their kōrero. Yeah, really nice to have Pania and Kelly's like living examples of what they've gone through, and to kind of be able to relate to that. So mihi to you fellas, and shot for linking us. Those Jay's spoken to me about both of your guys' kaupapa, and seeing some of you guys' stuff in social media and whatnot. So nice to see your faces and hear your voices, and put two and two together. And yeah, because of your mahi that you're doing in regards to the marakai and whenua sovereignty, I've definitely got a massive passion for that as well. So there's the invitation from here, from us up here at Ngā Raratunua, for you fellas to come and visit North and see what we're up to here on our whenua in terms of establishing a syntropic food forest, and making some connections and sharing some mātauranga. And yeah, super grateful for the invite, Jay, and grateful for everyone's whakaaro. So yeah, chiche.
Oh, kia ora, bro. No, that's mean. Thank you so much. And our inspiration actually comes from people like Ems were doing the thing as well, and was in Parihaka, you know, and I'm not sure if you saw it on the chat, but I did put a pānui out to Pania to see if we can get her to build us a whare, and then we'll do a whenua warrior noho marae at Ihumātao, eh?
Me.
And the next time we head north, bro, we'll call in.
You better write that in your deed.
But I think we were supposed to have Pōpaku down here before lockdown, so hopefully you're planning a new date for your harenga, Kawiti.
Right. Yep. No, look, hopefully November, we're gonna make the mish, all going well.
Gonna have to get a bigger truck for us, I think, bro.
Might need the 16-seater.
Yeah, man. E tautoko ake na ngā mihi. I just really appreciate all your fellas' experience. Tika tau tuahine, ei ko te ara paitama, tērā ka whanake katoa i tātou. Yeah, just I love that. Hey, whakaeme ake i ngā kōrero. Yeah, so tēnā koutou i ngā tuakana. Ka rapu matau hoki ngā teina, hey. But yeah, shot, main kōrero, tēnā koutou.
Whānau, any other closing remarks before I wrap us up? Whai whānau. Oh well, whatu naro te tanata toi tū ko te whenua, toi tū ko te whenua tū teitei, ko te kahika teo te wao nui o tāne. ko ona rau e kai nei na hihi o tamanui te rā, kia puta mai ko te hākiro, ko te hākiwaho, ti hei mauri ora.
Mauri ora.
Mauri ora.
Too much whānau. Thank you, fellas.
Ai.
Pomare.
Pomare te whānau.
Catch you fellas
See you
soon.
Take it down, Noah. Bye, catch you all soon.
Oh, Jared, before you leave, look at this, Jared. I need to show you something.
Oh.
Yo, show me. Oh, snap.
This one's been in the lounge all winter. I've been looking after it.
It's not
True,
blasted by the
true.
wind.
See?
Looking healthier than most of my bananas.
Oh, hey.
No, this one's been next to the fireplace for the last 3 months. So
It's going to get a bit of a shock when you actually put it in the whenua.
yeah. I'll probably have to wait till December till it's warm enough, eh?
Yeah.
Extend the roof.
How are your bananas going anyway? Are they like handling it like okay, or are they getting pretty smashed by that winter, that taranaki winter?
They're struggling, but they're growing. I mean, the Missy Luki that I put in 3 years ago is probably 3 meters tall. It hasn't fruited or anything, but
Whoa, bro, 3 meters is big.
Yeah, they're tall, but no sign of any flower or fruit. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe this summer. Maybe this is the summer. Who knows?
Well, bro, like,
New was predicting a warmer than normal spring, so we'll see how we go.
yeah. Well, we've got to plan ahead for climate change, you know. So, you'll.
Well, on that note, look at this.
Coffee.
Next exhibit. It's a white sapodi.
White sapodi. Yeah.
There you go. Also been in next to the fireplace. And then there you can see the sad looking inga beans.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they don't look too sad.
Oh, they look terrible.
Do they?
Yeah.
Good on you, bro. Everyone's probably like laughing at you for growing those things now, but like 10, 20
They're
years.
laughing now, but in 20 years.
Yeah.
It's awesome to see you, Jared. Thanks for inviting us to this call, and we'll any support you want or need, and we can help sharing docs or anything. Just let us know.
Thank you, brother.
Anything.
I really appreciate that. Thank you. And hopefully in November we'll be returning back on our trip down. So I'll keep you in touch about that anyway.
We'll be harvesting potatoes then, so we'll need hands. That's great.
Sweet. We'll have many hands. So
awesome. Too much.
All right, brother.
Pomari, Jared.
Pomari, my bro.
You're very Pomari.
Mami.
To my bro.
Just you and I. Now we can get a weed and silly, eh?
Yeah.
I suppose we better not, it's still recording.
Yeah. Exactly. Better just cut that off the end of the recording. No.
I don't even know if you can do that.
Yeah. Oh, well, the world will just have to live with the craziness at the end of this video.
Cheers. Nah, cheers, bro. Should we catch up and have a